That's me, Heritage Hall.
What's up, bro?
That's
your heritage home.
Yeah.
Craziness.
So where y'all at in class today?
Up now, Super Tuesday. You know, getting good balance.
Like you didn't have to do that, but you did.
Yeah, I know. That's why grades don't matter at this point. I'm not recalculating.
There you go.
Not yet. But I'll
I
probably.
already got my tassels. I'm already.
Yeah.
That's probably graduating.
And that EMST test.
Where'd you go?
Huh?
Did you? Are they already doing everything?
We got. I got mine during 100 days of graduation.
Yeah.
What?
I got my cap and gown there.
I haven't taken ESC
during
today.
100 days of graduation.
Oh, okay.
What you got at EMST?
So it's like, wait, they already have the nothing
What's
down.
the test?
92.
That's good.
What did you pick?
Lower than that.
I see you texted me back last
Lower
night.
than that.
You texted me back? I was like, oh,
Lower than
I guess you just not gonna check the score tonight.
78. Woo, 78. Bump me back. So you got my attention now. So you know I'm about to come back strong.
How you go to class and worry about the boys and yeah.
Well, you see, I didn't read the book, and that was
Me
a
neither.
problem for me.
But good.
The book that you need to read in the class, the text.
Yes, I'm good. What you mean, what
Tired
book?
all of a sudden.
You know what book it is.
Stop.
But see, I went to her. She was like, "Yeah, you can still get paid in class." I'm like that.
That sucks.
I know.
What you get?
I freaking slept.
I got 90
computer and stuff last night.
Are you serious? Wait, what? Individual feedback. That's what really made me dance. Like,
She said everybody.
it don't matter. Like, the fact that it got sent, like, that's like, that's
It was always there, always Thursday.
are you
Or not
serious?
always, but all classes. Yeah.
This is part one.
Part one I did.
That's horrible.
You see, I'm gonna go work my
So
magic though.
good.
How do you do that?
Because when I go look at the test, I'll be like, "See,
Why did they think to?
you're right." And she's like, "You know what?
One thing I'll say real quickly while we're trying to figure this out is I put reminders on stuff for the profile due in the announcements channel, so you can double check all of those. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing, doctor?
Good. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for waiting in with us. So tell us what you're up to right now. I think you all have an off day today. So what kinds of things do you have going on?
Pretty much I just wrote a column this morning about how the Cavaliers need to stop instead trying to ignore the Golden State Warriors. They need to find a way to get motivated by what they're doing. So I wrote that this morning. A couple of players have some charity events going on tonight. I'll probably skip those. So I think I'll probably relax and take it easy with the family today.
So how many nights have you had to relax and take it easy with the family since the season started?
Wow, that's a good question. You get a couple days here and there. I would say I get the day off probably 3 times a month, 3-4 times a month, probably.
Yeah, and that's like a day off, like within those 30 days of the month. You're not talking about weekdays.
No, yeah, exactly. Within the 30 days. Yeah, just finding a hole in the schedule, finding an off time, and most of the time when our site is oversaturated with Cavalier content, they'll give us a break. But you really got to try to find the holes in there somewhere in the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, we really appreciate you taking time to weigh in with us here. I've got my multi-platform class, and just kind of to fill you in a little bit about where we're at, this is the second course in our sports media certificate program. So here at Georgia, we have a 6-course certificate that students can get in sports media that I kind of describe as being like a minor on steroids. And so they are all major in at least one thing, maybe more than one thing, in many of y'all's cases. But this is the second. This is sort of a key storytelling skills class. So they did a lot of news coverage with us last year, learning how to cover games, to keep stats, to do things on deadline, all that stuff that you get to deal with every day. And then this class is more about developing features and not long form pieces per se, but learning how to tell all the stories that you have to tell if you're going to cover a team or a sport for that matter, and to develop kind of bigger picture storytelling skills and do more in-depth interviews and generally more in-depth stuff across multiple platforms. So, as I said kind of briefly over email when we first started talking about this, I heard the podcast that you did with Richard Deitch. I know it was like a couple of months ago now, or 6 weeks or so ago. And just came away really impressed with kind of what you've been able to do so far in your career, and also just sort of your approach to your beat and to being a journalist. And so I thought it'd be really great for these guys to get a chance to talk to you. And so I'm mostly going to let this be kind of a roundtable discussion. But I wanted to kick things off and just ask if you could talk a little bit about your own background. And I gather you were not sort of the person to go straight through J school and knew that you wanted to be a reporter from the age of 9 or whatever. So how did you get to where you are, kind of starting from the beginning in high school or college or wherever you feel like starting from?
Yeah, I took an unconventional path. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, I took an unconventional path. I had no aspirations of being a journalist whatsoever. I went to college and majored in kinesiology. My plan was to be a PE teacher. I wanted to be in sports in some capacity. I played college basketball. I got a scholarship to play at Fresno Pacific University. Realized I wasn't going pro, and I just wanted to be around sports, really be around basketball. So, great thing about college is that those elective classes that you're forced to per se to take some of those classes that you wouldn't ordinarily take. And I was fortunate to do something like that. I took an English writing course in college where it was heavy emphasis on writing. And then in that class, they allowed me to touch on topics that I was passionate about. They let each person choose. And I'm passionate about, African American studies, African American history. So I had to turn these 1,000-word pieces to them. And I realized, man, I like telling stories. I like writing about things that I'm passionate about. And so that was really the first step. And I used that skill set into an African American studies class at Fresno State, where I ended up transferring to and graduating from. And I found out, let me try to see if I can use this in sports writing. And that's how it happened for me. And that's how I, became got and craved the love for sports journalism. And that was my path, man. I was discouraged graduating because I still didn't graduate with a journalism degree. It was still kinesiology. And I was discouraged in talking to a lot of veteran reporters in the fact that I didn't have a degree in that area. And a lot of people were telling me or asking me, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I want to cover the NBA. Well, you got to cover high school for about 5 years. You got to cover college for another 5 years. Then, prove your worth. And then you can probably get a professional beat 10, 12 years. And that was really discouraging because I had no desire to cover high school. That wasn't my plan at all. But in this day and age and with the internet online, man, you can cover a team, not cover it legitimately, but you can cover a team, from your house online, get your work out there, and it can get seen. You can build up a following and an audience. So while that was the path, say 15, probably even 10 years ago, that you had to go through that route, nowadays, you can get your work out there if you're talented enough and you work hard enough at it. You can get your work out there and it can get seen, and then you can get picked up, much more quicker than it would have in the past. So that's a little bit of how I got to where I'm at right now.
Well, just to push that forward for a little bit more, can you talk us through kind of what kind of work were you doing when you got out of college, and how did you get seen? I think I remember seeing that you started out in radio, right?
Yeah, while I was in college, I was a sports producer for a radio show. And that's how I built up the contacts that I had, because you got to call agents and call different people to try to bring athletes onto the show. And so I developed, a little bit of my Rolodex at that point, not knowing that I would use those same contacts and use those same relationships for what I'm doing now. But yeah, that's what I did. After college, I really wanted to cover the NBA. I was really passionate about doing that. And so I live in Fresno, California, born and raised there, never lived outside of that city. And Sacramento was the closest NBA city. But me and my wife wanted to move a little bit ways, a distance away to where we can try to venture out and see some new things. And so I have 4 daughters as well. So, I had a family young. And so we left to Portland. We decided Portland was the place. It's a place that's about 12-hour drive away, place we've never been to. Portland Trailblazers there. So I hooked up with Slam Magazine, and I told them, like, hey, I want to get credentialed. I'll write for you guys. And, they weren't paying anything. But at the time, it got me credentialed to the games. And that's how I made my mark. I started for a year. It took a year. I was breaking stories, building a relationship with the players, coming up with feature stories that nobody else in the market was doing. And I did that for a year. And, coming on radio shows, making TV appearances that I've never been on TV before. So I did that in Portland. And after a year, Comcast Sportsnet Northwest opened up. And that TV station airs all the Portland Trailblazers games. So they were looking for a beat reporter to go to every single Portland Trailblazers game, cover them, write, appear on the TV shows. And I applied for the job, and I was I was a kind of a regular on their shows, fill in while I was, working for free for Slam. And so I got the job, and I did that for 4 years, covered the Portland Trailblazers. Still did the same thing, broke stories, came up with interesting features. And being that I come from similar backgrounds as some of the players, I was able to tell stories that I feel that nobody else probably could have did the story justice, just because I got players to open up. And so I was able to do that, and I proved my mark. I did that for 4 years. And then when LeBron went to Cleveland, the Cleveland Plain dealer, he wanted new talent, somebody that was going to, make a mark on the beat. 1,000 people applied for that job, and I got it. So that's a little bit how. I wouldn't look. Working for free, I would never, look, sometimes you got to do that, but obviously if you can get paid, that's always the path to go. But that was just a situation what I had to do at that point. And it got me noticed. It got me mentioned. It got people talking about me. People that for that first year, people didn't even know I wasn't getting paid for it. Now, I had a little security job on the side that I was doing to try to make ends meet. So that's basically how I got started.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, you mentioned this in the podcast with Richard, and you just alluded to it a little bit in talking about being able, having a similar background to some of the players or being able to relate more to them. And you made the point that a lot of writers, a lot of journalists don't really know how to have conversations with people and come in asking questions. I think your great phrase is something like that your mama wouldn't even ask you. But sort of what's your approach, especially kind of walking into a locker room, let's say after the trade deadline or meeting someone, new player that you don't know, how do you go about establishing a relationship or establishing a rapport with someone like that?
Treating a player like a normal individual. Like when you go into a locker room and you'll see reporters, the locker room is a weird dynamic. I'm pretty sure some of you guys have been in a locker room where, players getting changed and they get changed a lot. They're doing their thing, but the locker room is where we have access at, where we interview, but also it's still their personal space somewhat. And you have to be respectful of their space. And you'll see a lot of reporters just crowd around LeBron, crowd around Kyrie Irving, just invading their space when they're on the phone or getting changed. And you're not treating that person like an individual. So I try to, when I go in there, if I see they're busy, see they're changing, man, I keep my distance. And players see that and they respect that. And at the same time, when I'm going in there talking, a lot of times I'm not going in there with an angle. A lot of times I may have an angle in the back of my mind is that I may think like, hey, I want to ask this question. I want to get this question for a story. But that don't have to be the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you go and approach them. Shoot the breeze with them. Talk with them. Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing, man? What's up? You seen that movie? What's good? How's family? How's pops? And you should have a relationship with, with some of their family members or some of their close friends, because you see them all throughout the arena. Sometimes you see them out on the road. So, just build up interesting chit chat. And that helps. And I mentioned in that podcast, I don't know if I stressed it enough, but I mentioned in that podcast that you don't have to come from a similar background as these players to be able to build important and beneficial relationships. It's all about being a people person, treating them with respect. Just talk everything out of your mouth doesn't have there'd be a question to try to get a story. And you know, that's how it is. And I think that's how I've been able to develop my relationships, being able to get story ideas to where a lot of my story ideas comes from players when we're just talking and shooting the breeze. And I may not use it for a story at that time, but a month later I may come back to it and be like, hey man, you remember you told me that a month ago? You know, I was thinking about this, man. Can I do a story about that and talk to certain such? And that's, you know, a lot of stories come from that type of angle. But if you don't develop those relationships and just talking off the record and just shooting the breeze and getting to know them, those stories will never come. And then you'll end up just getting stories from the regular scrums. And when you get those stories from the scrums, I mean, when it's about 50, 40, or however many media people you have in that market, if you're just getting stories from the scrums and everybody's writing about the same thing, you're not going to stand out. Because you can get that same story. It may be written a little bit differently, but you get that same story at about 10, 15 different publications. So it's important to stand out. And you don't do that if you don't put in the work in ahead of time to establish and develop relationships.
Let me open to you guys. What questions do you all have for Chris?
I got one.
Okay, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, say where you're from, what your major is, and go from there.
What's going on? I'm Preston. I'm from Rome, Georgia, Northwest. I'm a PR major here. And so a question, I guess, you know, it's kind of a recent thing, but when a national guy like, you know, you have Stephen A. Smith comes out and says that, you know, the whole Kyrie thing, what's kind of your first reaction? Do you already know whether or not that's true? And then do you immediately go to him and be like, you know, what's going on? Or, you know, since you're at every single game versus Stephen A. obviously is not. So,
all right, let me tell you I love Stephen A. I love Stephen A. He does, you know, he does him. He's created a niche and created a market. He's capitalizing off it. With that being said, let me give you a little intel about how this business works. Stephen A. used to be, obviously, he used to work for the Philadelphia Inquirer back when he was covering Iverson. And that's how he made his name. He was real close to Allen Iverson, broke a lot of stories, kind of went from there to a columnist from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and boom, the rest is history. The problem is that when you transition from being a reputable, not to say that he's not a reputable journalist, but when you transition from being a reporter, for say, to being a TV debater, fair or not, you lose credibility within the industry, because I think a lot of you people, like, some people hate him, some people love him and Skip Bayless. And a lot of things they say, people don't take it as concrete. And so, yes, I do know the situation with Kyrie. No, he does not want to leave Cleveland. Is he struggling and frustrated in his role? Yes. But it's not a situation where he wants to leave or anything like that. But with that being said, the problem with Stephen A., because all you hear on, you know, the sound bites, you hear him screaming, yelling, arguing, him and Skip saying some outlandish things. Great for TV, but when they start saying some things, you know, like that with Kyrie, nobody takes them serious. I think if you've seen all the like, we didn't really write about it. All the other major publications didn't really write about it. And I think it shows to, like I said, fair or not, I think it shows to what people think about him and Skip as far as the integrity. Does Stephen A. talk to people? Yes, he definitely does talk to people. He knows some people. He's been in the game a long time. But it's just hard for people to take you seriously, you know, when you're on that platform yelling and screaming and doing things of that nature. So that kind of hurts your credibility. But I think if people believed it was true, and like I'm all on top of this beat, if I felt there was any validity to that, I definitely would have wrote about it and reported it myself. But I didn't touch it. If that answers your question, Preston.
No, yeah, that's good. And
you're a PR major, so you're going to end up dealing with people like me, man. So I got a love-hate relationship for those PR guys, man. There's some great ones, there's some horrible ones, but but at the end of the day, man, I think we all have to work together and find common ground. And you need both of us, man. And I just hope that later on in the future we can learn to just have a healthy relationship and understand that we both have jobs to do. You'll experience it, Preston. You'll see what I'm talking about if you don't know what I'm talking about now.
Well, this is the start. This is the relationship building.
I'll remember you.
Other questions?
Hi, everyone. Chris, Ryan Terrell. I'm from Sandy Springs. I'm a journalism major. I tweeted this question to you last night. I was really interested. What was it like covering the transition between David Blatt and Tyronn Lue? When it first happened, or when you first heard about it, what was the first thing that you did?
What I did as far as my job,
Yes.
my assignments for okay. Well, Woj broke the story. David Blatt was fired. Then 30 seconds later, I broke that Tyronn Lue was getting the job. So, man, I was actually dropping my kids off at school. And, I was dropping them off at practice. They had choir practice. It was in the car. God, it's one of the that was a bad time for me because obviously with Twitter, when you get breaking news, if I feel that I'm the only one that has this news, then you want to obviously get it on your publication first. Hurry up and write a quick something up on your site, then tweet it out, such and such. But Woj broke it on Twitter. So once he broke that Blatt was fired, it's just out. And then I got word, so I'm texting my contacts, and I get word Tyronn Lue is taking over as the full-time head coach. So obviously, it's all out there. So everybody is trying to get this scoop. So I have to hurry up and tweet. Bam! Now I got it on Twitter. Okay, now I don't have my laptop on me. I don't got my laptop on me. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm 10 miles away from my house. So I'm like, damn. So I'm calling my boss. I'm like, hey, I'm calling my editor. Hey, Blatt's been fired. I just reported Lue is getting the job. Here, I'm gonna talk to you. That's funny because I had to talk to my boss and tell him, how to write it, what to write. So we're going over the phone. This is never ideal. This is just the worst case scenario. Like you never want to do this, but I didn't have. Who would think Coach Blatt would get fired when the team is number one in the Eastern Conference? They got blew out by Golden State by 30 something. So if it was going to happen, it should have happened after that game. But the Cavaliers let Blatt coach the next two, which he ended up winning. And so it was just like I was just caught off guard. It was just caught off guard. Usually I always carry my laptop with me. I was just caught off guard. So that's how I was able to get the story up on our site. And then it took me about 15 minutes to get to my house so I could really dig in on the article and add more details. But that was a nightmare, man. I mean, it's good to be first or to get in on the story, to add more details to it. But, man, it's tough when you don't have your laptop on you, when you just caught off guard. So the moral of that story is always have your laptop on you, period. I don't care. My wife gets mad at me sometimes. We go out to dinner, just me and her. I got to have my laptop on me because this is not an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job. It's 24/7, man. Things break in the middle of the night, and you got to be ready. So that was a stressful time, but at the same time, we were able to add developments to the story, add layers to the story, and we was on top of it. That situation played out.
Thank you.
I have one.
Ashley. Sorry,
Oh.
Kelly.
Hey, Chris. My name's Kelly. I'm a senior public relations major, too.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. My question is, what is the biggest, or what do you consider is the biggest story that you've ever broken, or the story that you're most proud of? I know that's probably tough, but.
Yeah, well, my biggest story on the Cavaliers beat was breaking Tristan Thompson agrees to a five-year, $82 million contract. The Tristan Thompson deal, it was a whole bunch of layers. First of all, Tristan Thompson is represented by Rich Paul, who is LeBron James's agent. There hasn't been a holdout. Tristan Thompson held out. There hasn't been a holdout in the NBA for over 10 years. So Tristan Thompson was a free agent, which meant he was the last free agent left on the board. So when you're the last, typically there's never a big free agent that's on the board in October leading up to November. So when I broke that story, when I got the text on that was huge. That was the last domino to fall, because LeBron James really wanted Tristan. And it's this whole power play element of LeBron James running the Cavs, LeBron James wanting to get everybody that's represented with him under Clutch Sports and Rich Paul trying to get them paid. Is LeBron James holding the Cavaliers hostage? Is LeBron James going to get his way? Are the Cavaliers going to give in? All those type of things, man. That was the biggest thing on the Cavs. I mean, I've broken a lot of other stuff on the Cavs, but that right there, because the entire national media, everybody wanted in on that scoop. Everybody was trying to get that. And so to break that, boom, and just see Twitter just light up with retweets and just bam, bam, just exploding. That was great. In Portland, my biggest break in Portland was breaking Damian Lillard is competing in all sources. League sources tell me Damian Lillard is competing in all 5 All-Star events. And there has never been an NBA somebody that was going to compete in the dunk contest, 3-point contest, skills challenge. There was like 2 other events. I can't remember. That just blew up. I mean, but there's a whole bunch. If you ask me this tomorrow, I probably can tell you something differently. There's been so much. And I'm fortunate. And you don't break, the thing about it, you don't break stories without contacts and without relationships. And so everything you do, if you want a prolific feature story with great details, breaking stories, all of it surrounds back to relationships.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
No problem, Kelly.
Go ahead.
I'm Ashley Shea. I'm a junior. I'm a public relations major as well.
Man, golly.
We're going to get the journalists start asking questions here in a second.
Go ahead.
What has been the hardest story you have ever had to write, either in regard to getting the source or the topic of the story?
The hardest story was, without a doubt, the one I wrote on New Year's. It was the story I wrote on racial profiling, and I tied it into LeBron James's handling of Tamir Rice and how he was mute, basically. LeBron James is known for speaking out on social injustice, racial injustice, but in the Tamir Rice case, a young African-American who was shot by the police, here in Cleveland, LeBron James didn't say anything. He really hasn't had anything to say. It wasn't until the media kind of pressured him into asking, like, what's going on? And his response was really disappointing to a lot of people. And so I don't know if you guys know about it or read about it. So I wrote about a story what happened to me in Portland a couple of years ago, where I felt like, I knew I was racially profiled, and I was arrested right in front of my house. And like I said, I was on TV, every day there, little local celebrity there in Portland. And I don't want to get in, you guys can read it. I want to tie up time with details, but I was racially profiled, arrested, took me to jail. I ended up taking that officer to court, and I was cleared of all charges. Judge said, that it was uncalled for, that it shouldn't happen like that. So I was cleared, exonerated. But I wanted to take it a next step, or at least I was thinking about taking it to a next step and filing a lawsuit. And you guys know, with lawsuits, those things become public. And I felt like if it became public, the mugshot that I had to take, that I shouldn't have taken in the first place, that I had to take, would get out, will surface. And you guys know, whenever you see a mugshot, people automatically assume guilt. They automatically assume, hey, you did something. And I didn't want that to hurt my brand. I didn't want that to hurt just all of the goodwill that I had built up. And so I felt the obligation not to go through with that lawsuit. And then as some of these things started happening in our society, you know, the situation in New York, Tamir Rice, and the list goes on and on. You guys know, it haunted me more and more. Like, wow, that was my time to make a change. And I remember when I told my attorney that I wasn't going to go through with the suit, he told me, look, for somebody that's in your position, a local celebrity per se, if you don't speak out against this, if you don't show people that this happens to people like you, then the little people wouldn't stand a chance. And you're missing a big opportunity. And that always stayed with me. So I held that in for 2 years. And when LeBron was going through a situation with Tamir and everybody was bagging on him and getting on him for that, I felt like, hey, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to tell my story. And so that was by far the most agonizing, heart-wrenching story that I had to tell, because it was my own personal experience and I lived it. And it was still, every little memory of that time was still vividly in my mind. And so that was by far the hardest story. But at the same time, it was by far the most well-received story I've ever written. I received so much outpouring from everybody, celebrities to, like, I'm talking like movie stars were just tweeting at me, and NBA players, sports figures, actresses, actors. It was ridiculous. And so I felt like the story did justice, and some way there was a sense of relief on my part that I may not have handled it right 2 years ago, but I made amends somehow and made an impact. So sorry to be long-winded, but that was by far the most hardest story I've ever had to write.
Damian Reynolds from Valdosta, Georgia, broadcast journalism major. Tying into the Portland situation, I didn't want to tweet it last night because I didn't want a lot of people to take how I was going to phrase the question the wrong way. How often do you deal with like racial profiling or even racial undertones in the media business? Maybe not to the same extent as you did in Portland, but how do you deal with it?
Within the media realm, within my media fraternity, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Not too much. The NBA is the NBA media fraternity is the most diverse you have in any of the major professional sports. You have, and I touched on it a little bit in the podcast, but I think the reason for that was nobody wanted to cover the NBA in the early 90s and the 80s. Like, it was too black, period. There's no way of beating around the bush. I think it was too black, and it wasn't the Supreme League. It was the NFL. Well, even 80s and 90s, I think it was Major League Baseball, then the NFL. And the NFL in the 90s started to take over and come team. But it wasn't until Michael Jordan really took off, his airness, and the pub that he got, the endorsements. And that was really, people called that the Dream Team time. When the Dream Team came out, the 92, 93 era, that's when the heyday of the NBA started to surface. But at that time, remember, nobody wanted to cover a league. So that's what they gave. So that was the league that was most accessible. And so you had a lot of blacks that were were covering the NBA. And you still have that in today's landscape. So I don't deal with that a lot in the media fraternity as a whole. Now in Portland, Portland is not the most diverse state, period. So yes, I've dealt with it a lot more there than anywhere else. But for the most part, man, the NBA, they're always ahead of the curve when you're talking about diversity. Women, women of color, females. They're really great in that regard. But definitely, I would like to see it be way more diverse in Major League Baseball and the NFL, because that is just night and day when you look at the NBA to those sports.
I have something. My name is Kennington. I'm a mass media arts major. When you're a beat reporter and you're around these players, a lot, you build relationships with them. There are also going to be times where you may have to be critical of them, like when it comes to their playing performance or something they may or may not say in the community or like a locker room issue. How do you maintain those relationships while still like having to be critical of them at the same time?
You still got a job to do, and they know, they understand. Well, me personally, they know, understand if I'm gonna be critical, I'm going to be fair, and it's important for them to know that you're not going to say anything that's going to look. I've been critical. Look, the last couple of weeks, Cavalier fans have been killing me because I've been critical on their play. You looking at the Warriors, and my column I just wrote this morning that I told you guys about. You look at the Warriors and what they've been doing, the way they're just dominating through the competition. Stephen Curry just shooting threes and hitting them from half court. Those guys over there smiling, dancing, and they're having a good time. And Cavaliers over here got LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love. It's the big three. There's no reason why they should be struggling like they are right now. There's no reason the coach should have gotten fired midway in the season. So I have to point those things out, because if I don't, I can't be a homer. And that's another thing this is my own personal thing. Over the last 5 years or so, 5 years. I've only been in covering league 5 or 6 years, but I've seen it more and more where we're letting a lot of fan media into the locker rooms. And when you got fan media where, they're kissing up the players and they're just happy to be around the players, writing all these glowing things. When something goes wrong, they want to try to turn water into wine, when it can't be done. Sometimes you just got to call a spade a spade. And you have that in this society right now. But I think it hurts your credibility because, look, man, at the end of the day, when something is going wrong, I believe you owe it to your consumers, to the people that read you or listen to you, to tell the truth, to keep it real, to keep it 100. And that's how you get the respect. And I think the players at the end of the day, when they know that's what you're about, and they know that you're not going to go out there and say anything crazy or anything foolish, anything to try to put them in a negative light, but you is. And if you're not, you won't be respected. You won't be respectable. So that's how that does. And another thing too is what goes on in our business now too, is that the personal teams, they have their own media guys, and they have. Oh, I can see y'all better. That's a good shot. Okay.
Yeah, actually, my laptop was about to die, so I had to switch over to backup plan number 1 here. So, yeah, so it's working.
That's cool. No problem.
Yeah,
no problem. But teams have their own, even college teams, they have their own little beat writers, and yeah, they're beat writers, but they can't write anything critical. They can't break news. Everything has to be glowing. And then you mislead your viewers, you mislead your readers. And I have a big problem with that. Like, if you want to call yourself a reporter, do the job. Now, I'm not saying don't take those jobs that these teams are offering, because hey, those are great jobs now. But I think it's important not to put those reporters in the same boat as the ones that's actually trying to do on the grind, actually go out there and give the readers what's the real, and that's what's going on. So to ask you to bring it all back to your question, the players know, especially if you built that relationship, they know you're fair, and if you're fair, they're cool with it. They know they screwed up. If LeBron got 7-8 turnovers in a game, he know I got to go at him, and that's only right, because he probably cost the team the game. So that's it. Hey, but I will say this. Iman Shumpert, you guys can tweet it, you guys can see it. Iman Shumpert called me out on Twitter, saying I'm always being negative. That's why nobody talks to you, and all that type of stuff. And look, you're going to get that from time to time. Whatever, man. I got a job to do, and point blank. And then the fans, they're going to jump on. Fans love their players. And so when Shump tweeted that, I had a whole bunch of fans just ripping me on Twitter. See, you're always stirring up problems, Chris. You're stirring this. You're doing this. You're doing that. Well, nah, I'm just doing my job. Period. You do. And you guys that, you guys are in this major, I'm pretty sure you guys are getting educated on how to cover this and how to deal with these certain issues. It's going to come up. But I'm cool with Shump now. We talk. And the thing about it is I see these guys every day. So you got a problem with me, I'm going to be in your face the next to deal with it. If not, oh, well, period, whatever. But I'm going to still have to come and talk to you. So don't ever get intimidated by these players and athletes that you're dealing with. You got a job to do. So go in there and do your job.
I was going to ask about that and just, kind of to build on that a little bit. Let's say whether it's with Shump or remember not too long ago, you kind of ripped on Kyrie in one of your columns. And for you, I mean, some people like, Woody Page is notorious for, writing terrible things about someone and then just never going back in the locker room again. But for you, with what you do you typically, do you have to go clear the air with someone, or do you go kind of, own your words in that with a player, or how do you go about maintaining that relationship after you've been critical about a player in print or online?
Well, it depends. Like I was 2 days ago, I wrote a critical article on Kyrie saying he needs to be a better playmaker. He doesn't get guys involved. The Cavaliers will not reach their full potential until he fixes that. He needs to pass the ball, basically. And then if you guys saw the column I wrote this morning, it was about the Warriors. And I spoke, Kyrie gave me a nice one-on-one. Sometimes if the player is perturbed about the story, it's my job to go talk to them and clear the air and let them know where I'm coming from. I don't know if Kyrie didn't read what I wrote or if he's just being a better professional, because 2-3 years ago, Kyrie would have did what Shump did to me and tweeted out something, trying to bash. But I'm seeing the evolution of him and trying to be more of a professional and handle everything that comes with being a professional athlete. So, and I think it's very important. Like Dr. Suggs mentioned, there are people that write all this negative stuff, but then you don't never see them in the locker room. So it's easy to do that. It's easy to bash somebody that you never have to face. But it shows not your courage, but it shows your integrity, not only as a human being, but as a person doing this profession, that if I can come rip you, and then you're gonna see me in the locker room the next day. So if we have a press, talk it out. And if you like, there's been times where the athletes say, "Hey man, they called me out," in the locker room, say, "Man, I was wrong. The reason I did this was because of that." And it may spark something in me. I'm like, okay, maybe I was wrong. I may follow it up with something. Hey, man, I was wrong here. But that's how you build relationships, man. And that's all anybody can ask of in a relationship. You show your face. Don't hide from it. Show your face and face it. Face the music. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, players know where I stand. They know where I'm coming from, so they know that they know that it's not anything malicious. It's very important that you be a person of integrity while covering this sport, and that's why I sometimes always have problems with the fan sites, because it's not about integrity. It's about they're happy to be around, and these fan sites often they're the ones in the locker room in the scrums not asking questions. They don't have an agenda at all. They just want to be there. They're happy to be there. They got their little microphone in there. And then as soon as a player says something juicy, they're hurting, tweeting it out, trying to tweet it out first. And then get their Twitter followers buzzing when they're not doing anything. They're just feeding. So this is another part to going back to relationships. If I have a great question that I know is going to elicit an amazing response, I wait till the scrums are over. And I go to LeBron, I go to Kyrie, I go to Kevin Love. I get to him by myself, one-on-one. And I get that story that way. And then when I put my story out, people are like, dang, that was a great story. Okay, so now if you want a piece of my story, you got to write about it, but you got to link it back to me. So I'm getting all of that coverage opposed to sharing it with 20 different publications. Because he said it, because I asked my great, phenomenal questions in the big scrum. So again, it all goes back to relationships. Everything goes back to relationships. Every job that you do, if you guys choose later on down the road, you don't want to go down the PR path, the journalism path, no matter what you do, and a lot of it is who you know, your relationships.
Another question for you all. You gonna go? Okay. Got a couple people who got to sneak out of here. Yeah, Jalen.
I have a question. How you doing, Mr. Haynes? My name is Jalen Thompson. I'm a junior from Hampton, Georgia, and I'm a digital and broadcast journalism major. So my question to you would be, I've kind of been in the locker room a couple of times, so I was wondering, what's really the relationship like with Kevin Love and LeBron James? Because the national media is making it like it's a big deal where LeBron really doesn't like him. But is there like, are they really close, or like it's like a professional relationship, like a Kobe Shaq deal?
Chris, you there? Is it frozen up again? Chris, are you there? Yeah. Chris? Something crashed. Yep.
And I dressed so late. It was 2 o'clock when I walked in the door. That was all the time. I'm sorry, I'm not fixing it. I'm walking and do something. 6:50.
Do you have to invite them with a link?
Yeah, because it's a hangout on air. I mean, you could do a video call like you would do a Skype or something like that.
So other people can join this?
Theoretically, yeah. If I posted a link out on Slack just now, so you could join that. Obviously, we're not going to do that sitting around here because then you get that same kind of thing. But you remember you weren't in this class. In social media, I did this a few times, and folks could watch from other places or participate that way. So you can either watch or you can join. So I'll have people in other places doing this. Jay, could I trouble you to grab my phone? It's right back there. I don't know if he's trying to. Thank you. I'm sure he's not trying to call you back.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of that. I saw it take.
Resnap your videos.
Oh yeah.
2 words.
What do you mean? What is
Like they replayed it. Yeah, or they like responded back to it. Because on the thing, I'm like,
I thought.
because you did like the exact thing, like, oh hey, what's up? I'm Kelly.
Amber.
I didn't know that was in Resnap.
Drone range return on user.
Oh my God, I was so happy.
Like
That was
retweeting?
really good for you.
That's what we were doing. Hi, I'm Kelly. Dude, I killed it. Got through that.
Yeah, they're saying that.
I was so happy
It's
that
most likely he's gonna turn
earlier
blue
than I
after
was
the
expected to. But I'm so happy it ended it
You know
early.
what? You've been fixing some tires.
They won't do that.
I was only kidding.
I know, right? That's the thing I'm only talking about.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
they're
it's
saying next year.
Are you done?
No, I really want to. And it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah,
Taker
I'm
already
stuck
has,
with
already has
it.
one one. So what's another loss on this? What's an income?
Let's see.
Softball.
Yeah.
I have a question about
Yeah.
the profile.
Yeah.
So if I send you the profile by tomorrow, will you look at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you just send me what you've got by tomorrow, wherever you're at, then I'll be happy to look at it and provide suggestions. And it's always best to send works in progress, and don't worry about whether I'm going to like it or not, because, even if I provide a whole bunch of suggestions, and that's still going to help you in the long run. So, I'm not going to be mad at you if you send me kind of half-finished work or whatnot.
All right.
Yeah, I've always hated the Sim City draft because sometimes we'll feel like I hate it to start over.
Yeah, except hopefully you know by now, I'm not going to say I hate it, start over. I'm going to say I hate it for X, Y, and Z reasons, and here are the things that you need to think about. You know, maybe and
That's always just terrifying because I didn't want to do it.
That's all I'm just
Oh yeah, and I also want to say I think you're the only person I know that uses Google Hangouts.
I use it for grouping.
Well, YouTube. But everybody else I know uses Skype or FaceTime or stuff like that.
So the reason I like doing this is because it stores it on YouTube, and so you can watch it, you know, out of real time. Hey, Chris, are you back? Hey, Chris, are you back?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Oh, it's our fault. I'm sure something screwed up on our end. But Jalen asked a very soap operatic question about the relationship between LeBron and Kevin Love. So I didn't know what your thoughts.
All right, so you just want to know what's their relationship like?
Yeah, I just want to know, is it Kobe Shaq-esque or is it Scotty and
No, it ain't that bad. Kevin Love, I've known Kevin Love for a while. His family is from Portland. He went to high school in Portland, so I've known him for a while. Kevin Love is an introvert. He doesn't talk to anybody. That's just how he is. Like he keeps to himself. After every game, he's often the last person to leave the locker room. He just sits there. LeBron James is a guy who wants everybody to be like this family. He wants to take pictures, group pictures together. He wants to hang out. He wants to do this. He's under the belief that, and he told me this, that like if the chemistry is great off the court, then it'll surface on the court. That's just how he is. Kev's just not that guy, man. He's not that guy. And so a lot of times there's been friction. You know, they've come to heads about that. And Kevin Love doesn't handle criticism well. And in that, I mean, like LeBron, he'll say some stuff, man, like getting on his teammates, naming names. And a lot of people shrink to that. Kyrie even shrinks to that to a certain point, to where it messes with them. Like they can't get up if somebody of a respected level such as LeBron takes a shot at them. And LeBron does it to try to motivate them. But what LeBron needs to understand is not everybody is built like that. Like when I was covering Damian Lillard's a dog. Bro. He's a beast. Like you can get on him and he go take it in stride and go out there and try to rip your head off. That's just him. Everybody else ain't built like that. So it's been better this year. Bron hasn't taken really any verbal shots at Kevin Love. And last year he went and tweeted at Love, you know, saying some cryptic message about him. But it's okay. They're not the best of friends, but that's just because of Kevin Love. So it is no way near Kobe and Shaq, but it can be a lot better.
Let me ask this kind of along those lines. With guys like that, you've clearly developed relationships with them or Damian Lillard in Portland. Was there a feeling out process? Did you kind of have to like prove that you were going to be fair and, you know, that you were going to do your job and that you weren't going to be a fanboy? Or, I mean, how did you go about kind of, you know, getting those guys to take you seriously?
The proven out process goes when they start telling you stuff and then you're not going to use that in a story. So the filling out process comes from basically, like I said, shooting the breeze, talking with them about whatever's going on. And within those another thing is everybody is not a people person. And so I can tell you how to do it, but you know some people who just are socially awkward. Like it doesn't matter, they come up to you and they don't know how to hold a conversation. So just because I tell you this doesn't mean you're going to be able to go out and put forth that. You have to be a people person. You can't be somebody that just loves to talk online. Like that can't be you. That's not, this business is about people. You have to deal with people and know how to interact. And so when you're talking and having these conversations with these players, you know, we having these off the record conversations, you're just shooting the breeze. Every now and then they're going to say some things that's going to slip that obviously they wouldn't want in print. They wouldn't want written or tweeted or whatever. And so that's where that trust comes from. when they see that I can tell you, like this important. This happened to me a lot. You know, when I started, I'm 34 now. So I was 28 when I first got on the beat. And so, you know, I'm the same age as a lot of these guys. It got so bad in Portland to where I had to tell a lot of players, look, man, stop telling me all this stuff, man, because they telling me all this stuff and they know I'm not going to use it. And then when it leaks from somebody somewhere else, you get beat on it. So I had to get to a point where, like, I had to stop getting too chummy with them. Like, man, look, it ain't like, don't tell me. So like let's keep it. I had to step. That was like after a year on the beat, my first year. So that was a filling out process for me, trying to keep boundaries, but at the same time, still keep a relationship. They know you have a job to do, and so that hurt me a lot in that first year. I had to learn that. But you know, it just comes. The trust comes from them knowing that I can be upfront with you, and not everything that I tell you is going to end up in print. So that's how. I don't know if that answers your question, Dr. Suggs, but that's how I kind of developed that relationship for the player knowing that he can be upfront and tell me some things. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of things that the guys tell you, you're able to formulate story ideas for, you know, a later time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Glenda.
Yeah, I'm Glenda Dowdy. I'm from Stone Mountain, Georgia. I'm a PR major. I want to know how your job is different during the off season.
Less travel, way less travel. You're able to be home more, but this job is a 10-month job. Like, a 10.5-month job, because free agency takes over in July. So I'm covering a team now that plays until late June. I think we all can expect the Cavaliers to be in the NBA Finals. So late June, if they win or lose, it's over in late June. Free agency starts July 1. I'm on my phone 22 of the 24 hours because players agree to deals throughout the time. They'll agree to it. I've broken stories at 3 a.m. A player's agreeing to sign with such and such. This goes on all of July. And then in the middle of July, you got Summer League in Las Vegas that goes on for about 2 weeks. Then you got Team USA. And I don't know if LeBron is going to go play in the Olympics in Brazil, because I probably have to cover that. And so really all of August is pretty much the time you really have off. But let me give you all a little gist of how free agency works. So during the free agency period, you're texting agents, texting GMs, texting owners. If you got owners contact, hey, what's going on? What's going on with such and such player? What's going on? So you're steady. If you're not breaking a player is going to sign with such and such, you're breaking, hey, a player is going to meet with Dallas Mavericks Friday night, and then he's going to meet with the Lakers Saturday. You're breaking all these developments, all the things leading up to a potential signing or a potential agreement. All those things are hectic. So at this time, it may be somebody that breaks something on your turf. Kevin Love is going to meet with Boston. Okay, now I got to look up. Okay, I got to find out if that's true. Then I got to write about that. Then I got to find out if there's anything new. When is he going to meet with Boston? Okay, he's going to meet with Boston Friday. So it's all type of things. And look, you guys and me, we're so lucky that we have been born in this era, because can you imagine the good old newspaper days? I know Dr. Suggs knows about this. Back in the newspaper days, right? If you broke a story, you had all day to have that story to yourself, because there was no social media to break something 2 minutes later. Like, say if Woj broke on a Thursday in the 80s or in the 90s, if Woj breaks that David Black got fired, it's in the paper on Friday. So Woj has that story all to himself. So for all day, he owns that story. And I have to try to come up with something for the next day. So in this day and time, it does make it hectic. Lucky wasn't the right word. It does make this job way more hectic, because you got to come up with the next development in the next 2 minutes. And then the next development may come from somebody else in the next 30 seconds. So you're able to catch up quicker. But in newspaper days, man, you break it, you had all day. You had all day until the next paper edition the next morning. So things have changed. You know, social media has made things more hectic, like what I talked about doing while you're covering the game. You know, a lot of people want you tweeting all throughout the game. I don't see no benefit of that, really. I see benefit of showing a presence of, you know, I give analysis during the game, but I'm not tweeting every like, hey, LeBron dribbled the ball out of bounds. Cavs have it. You know, I mean, Indiana Pacers have the ball. Because that stuff is work. If I could tweet out analysis of the game where, man, Kyrie just hit this. Kyrie just nailed a three. That's his. He's hit his 8 of his last 11 threes. Now that's a tidbit. That's worthy of being looked at even the next day. So I try to tweet out something that's during the game. That's something that will be interesting even the next day. Mm-hmm. So that's how this lifestyle. I'm sorry, I kind of dribbled. Did I ask you a question? Did I get to it?
Yeah.
What was the question again?
How is it during the off season?
I went completely off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but no, I was trying to give you an inside look on what goes on. So it's just as hectic because you're working a lot of days, and a lot of times I'll tell my wife to fly back to California during that free agency period to the mid-July to mid-July because I'm no good. Like, I can't do anything. Like, don't send me on an errand. Don't have me doing anything because as soon as something breaks, I got to cover it. So I may send my family off for a couple weeks so I can deal with that. Mm-hmm. So no travel, less travel, but sometimes it gets more hectic.
Yeah. We have maybe time for one more question. Chris, you've been incredibly generous with your time this afternoon. Does anyone want to wrap it up? Yeah, Jalen.
I actually just got like 11:59 last night, so I'm kind of cutting it close to the deadline. But who was your heroes growing up?
Heroes in the sport.
Who was your heroes growing up?
In the sport or just in general?
In general.
Heroes growing up. Wow. That's a good question. I would have to say probably, man, my heroes are probably people that, you know, never ever get the chance to meet, man. Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, John F. Kennedy. I love history. I love history. And anybody who has paved the way to creating change within society, I'm all for it. And I've never been asked that question. You know, that's a good question. Who's my hero? I gravitate towards people who step out of the box. And the reason I was so glad that the story I wrote on my situation and the way LeBron handled Tamir Rice was because it wasn't your general sports story. It dealt with sports, but it touched on a bunch of different layers. And for that, it was so well received because I was getting picked up from the sports field. I was getting picked up from politics. I was getting picked up from entertainment. It was like a whole bunch of different genres. And anytime you're able to strike a chord like that, that's when you know you've created a mark. And I gravitate towards people that do that. Some of the writers that I look up to are people that make you think. Like, you know, J.A. Donde. He doesn't write often, but when he writes, it's very impactful. It makes you think. When you're covering a beat, you don't have time to really do a lot of those pieces because you're, especially on this beat with LeBron, because everything he says is newsworthy. So you got to cover every little dribble. But whenever you get time to sit back and do a long feature or a long form piece, I like it to be impactful, and I try to do that. And I would encourage you guys to do that too. Like, if you are on a beat doing something, like, try to take a step back to do a long form story and dive in to dive into a person's life, his upbringing, what got them there, how did that, how did he become this player? And a lot of times, man, you'll find out that'll be some of your greatest work. I love breaking stories. Don't get me wrong. I relish breaking stories. I get a high off of that. But I get just as much high when you can get a player that just is going to give you everything they got. They're not going to hold anything back. And when you can do that, that's how you stand out. And I like people that stand out. And so some of those people that I've named heroes, they stand out. And so I think all of you guys in the PR field, journalism, whatever, I just encourage you and I challenge you to stand out. Go beyond the Call of Duty. Because in this field, man, I encourage you. We need more of you journalists, young journalists, to get in there. You guys got great ideas to get in there and change the game. But this game, man, people are getting fired left and right, period. The game is shrinking so much. They cut down on our funds all the time. Like, it's a lot of my peers don't get to travel to every game now. Because now people are like, well, you can write the same thing that you would write if you were there. You can do it from home. And that really is a journalist. People don't understand that, though. So, but if you can go above and beyond the Call of Duty, that's how you're going to stand out, and that's how you're going to stay relevant and stay having a job, period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, Chris, this has been great. You've really been more than generous with your time, and it's meant a lot. So I want to thank you for this, and I hope we can stay in touch with you, and I'm looking forward to following your career, but hopefully we can have another conversation like this down the road.
Please do. Keep in touch. And you can reach me by email. You ever need any questions or anything like that, hit me a note. I'll respond back. So thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys. I wish you guys best of luck in y'all future endeavors.
All right. Best of luck to you for the rest of a very long season. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye.